Hi, Graham. I'm very envious of you down there in Cornwall. It's my favourite place in the whole world.
We've been so lucky, especially in the last year or so, to be here, because I've got friends who are in, 4 kids in a 2-bedroom flat in the middle of London with no balcony, no way of getting out, and we just walk out of the door. So we are so lucky. Yeah. It's great.
Why I live in the middle of the countryside too, because of the influences, and Cornwall must be a big influence. And they talk all the time, don't they, about you being a minimalist and a post-minimalist, which I find wrong. I think you write great music that's influenced by, the current times and current genres and types of music, in the way that Vaughan Williams, going back to Vaughan Williams and people like that, they used folk music, and Bartok used folk music, and you do all of that and combine them with these fantastic rhythms and influences.
Yeah, I suppose I find the term minimalist or post-minimalist a strange one, because minimalism for me was a period, has happened in music, in a sense has happened. It's moved on now, so it's something in the past, and I took a lot from it. I was really influenced by those guys, and still am. But there's so many different sorts of musics coming out now, and so many different. There's a sort of plurality of things, and I suppose I just try and make music which is, at least I find, relevant to today, or to what's happening with me and all the other stuff going around. So yeah, you're right. It's those labels of genres. I could do without them, really.
One of the best times in my career, Graham, was when we collaborated with you as composer in residence at the LCO. And one of the great things we did was we had this idea, both you and I, to ask professors at the Royal Colleges and, well, not just the Royal Colleges, all the conservatoires in England, to put forward a student for a competition. And the prize was that they would get their work played by the LCO and recorded. But what transpired that was more important in the end was the way you interacted with those students. You were absolutely brilliant, just guiding them through in a sort of masterclass way.
Well, that's really kind of you to say so. I mean, but I enjoyed doing it. I think that's the thing, because I was in that sort of slightly netherworld as well, where I was ahead of those guys in terms of experience. I'd had performances. And they hadn't, and I so understood, and still do understand, how a young composer who's a student is having to learn and try and get forward in their career, for want of a better word, and the sort of experience which they had and I had with them, because I was learning from them as well. They were teaching me stuff. It wasn't as if it was all coming from us to them. They were trying things out where I was thinking, well, is that really possible? And then find out actually that it might be possible. It was and so I was learning as well. But the fact that I could work with them, and you and the musicians were so generous with your time that you would give them tips, you give me tips. As I remember, there was a cellist who gave one of the composers a really good tip on notation that sort of sticks in my mind from those years ago, and that sort of thing is invaluable, I think, for the younger composers.
Well, you'll be pleased to know, Graham, that one of those young composers, at least one, has hit the big time since. His name's Daniel Cadane, and we've worked with him as well, since he's doing really well.
Yeah, Daniel's great. He's funny enough, our paths crossed earlier in lockdown when we both gave a talk to Vassal University Music Department earlier in lockdown 1 week after each other. So our paths crossed then, and it's good to see that he's doing well. But he's not the only one as well. I think the others are doing really well as well. So it was a great thing to do, and it's still, if we can do that sort of thing again, I think we should.
Anyway, we must talk about Vassal.
Yes, indeed.
That's what we're supposed to be talking about. When we first performed Vassal, I think it was in Dublin, but it was called Servant. But since then, we've done it in the UNESCO Festival in Bucharest, we've done it in Oxford, we've done it in St. John's, we've done it all over the place. But it was first called Servant. Why the name change?
Okay, well, it started life as a string quartet, and the title was indeed Servant. And I was quite happy with the title being Servant, and I still would be happy with the title being Servant if it wasn't for the Performing Rights Society. The PRS would not allow me to use the same title for an orchestral piece as a string quartet. And so, and I sort of got into, I said, well, surely it's ridiculous. Surely there's a way of doing this, Symphony No. 1, or I don't know, that it just seems so mad. But in the end, the only way around it was to retitle one of the pieces. And as it was the second one, I retitled it Vassal. But I mean, the pieces, there's a lot of similarities between the two pieces. They both, I mean, it starts in complete rhythmic unison, and then slowly breaks up into two. It goes into 2 parts, and then 3 and 4, and so the polyphony.
I really want you to explain that, Graham. It'd be great if you could explain that, because one of the things I love about Vassal is the way it moves from very heavy sort of pulsing rhythms and gets you dancing around the place, and then goes into very soft and beautifully romantic things, but very simple, you know, which the great compositions are. But I'd love you to explain. I mean, I know it wouldn't be.
Well, no, I mean, yes, some of it is very simple, and there's a lot of power, I think, to be gained from keeping stuff simple sometimes. Yes, a lot of my music is rhythmically complex, and in bits of Vassal, it's quite polyphonic, and there are lots of things happening, and you can concentrate on one line or you can concentrate on another line, and they sort of hopefully work together. But there's quite a lot to be said just for having, you know, if this piece is about the rhythm, then let's just hear the rhythm. Let's not muck about with different harmonies. Let's just hear that and see how that, the strength of that alone, does it work or does it not work? This is my compositional process going, if you like. So I might think about that, and then I think, in this particular case, I remember thinking, yes, okay, this is the strength of everybody doing exactly the same thing rhythmically at the same time is strong. But then I want it, instead of it just to be one thing, to split into 2, so that we have this sort of shifting, but then come back and always refer to that rhythmic unison. And that can happen with the fast music, whether it's going digga, 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 or whether it's going bum, bum, ba, bum. It doesn't really matter whether it's fast or slow or in the middle. And I think there are 3 different sorts of tempi I've got going on at different times, which involve both rhythmic unison, splitting all the musicians into 2 sections, and then 3, and then 4, and then sort of that tendency for the whole thing to always rush back and become one solid thing in the end is what I was after, I suppose, in the piece. Yes.
Well, I think it's just such a great piece. I really do, and I never hesitate to program it whenever I can. As you can see, we've played it.
Well, that's very sweet of you. Thank you very much.
I really hope we get to commission more pieces from you, and that we continue our friendship and collaboration, Graham. I just want to cover one last thing before we go. When I was a very young man, there was an orchestra put together for one concert in the Royal Albert Hall. The entire string section was full of concertmasters, and I'd just been appointed, or not taken up the job, as BBC concertmaster of the BBC Welsh Symphony, as it was at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
And the concert, which had all these concertmasters and principals, and the big band side was absolutely stunning, was with Frank Sinatra, and I never worked with a more inspirational or charismatic conductor stroke artist in all my life.
Yeah.
And every musician on that stage wanted to be there. And I know that Frank Sinatra is a big influence of yours. Why?
He is. Well, you're right. I mean, I'm a massive fan, because, I mean, for a variety of reasons, but one is that his voice is so superb and so beautiful, especially in the sort of middle period, and even in the younger period, actually. But apart from that, it's the way his phrases sort of linger over the ends of a phrase. So if you've got a phrase which is that long, and you'd imagine the singer to come in and be there, he's sort of slightly out that way, or he's slightly out that way, or maybe he's going out both ends. He's sort of taking he's taking a lot of liberty with that, which I loved. But alongside that, you've got the arranger, often Nelson Riddle, whose arrangements I think are completely superb, who I think must have known that Sinatra would play around with it. Therefore, he has to keep what he's doing right bang on. And also, coming back to what we were talking about earlier, simplicity, Nelson Riddle often will reduce things down to the bare minimum but still get the character, the real character of what he's doing, whether it's a tremolo string or whether it's a muted trumpet, or whatever it is. He sort of points that thing up, but allows you to appreciate both that and the artist Sinatra over the top. So it's the pairing of the two of them, which I think is so wonderful, really.
Well, Graham, it's so great to be together again, albeit virtually. But I miss you, all miss you, and we want to get together again soon and have you in the studio or the concert hall with us, playing either your music or whoever's music.
I would love to be working with you again.